Let's get started, ladies. We've got quite a lovely morning ahead and quite a bit to get through. So I'd like to get the meeting started, if I may. First of all, before we get going, can I ask you to make sure your phones are on silent, please? Don't forget to mute them or turn them off. Phones to silent. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, welcome to everybody. Thank you very much for coming along. It's great to see another fantastic turnout. It's lovely to see you all looking so marvelous and on this autumn morning. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get going with all the other aspects of the meeting. Although we did think that possibly in early May, we may be allowed not to wear masks, we do still have the requirement to wear masks when we're indoors, especially at a function, if you're not eating or drinking. It is still a requirement of Kelvin. It is still a requirement from our government, I'm afraid, for the time being. So we have to observe that unless you're eating and drinking. And outside, you don't have to wear them, as you know. You've probably all noticed Kelvin have introduced a new requirement at the boom for visitors to have ID or driving license with them. So if you come as a member with visitors, they must have identification with them, ID or driving license. This is a Kelvin requirement. They have had an awful lot of visitors, I think, who are not identified. It is part of their security. They should know who is in the building and who is coming and going in the club. I can understand that. It's just a simple thing to remember to have your driving license with you or your ID. We should have it with us, our driving license, I suppose, at most times anyway. And one other question, one other statement on the registration process. When we tell you about the meeting on WhatsApp, we ask you to RSVP. And we need you to do that on WhatsApp so that we have an accurate list of who is attending this morning. Again, that is a Kelvin requirement. It is not us being difficult. We are required to do this. So please, please RSVP so that we can produce that list. I have to RSVP and I get told off by Victoria because I've forgotten to say that I'm attending. So we all have to RSVP. If we do that, we're on that list, which is at the gate, makes life so much easier and we can get in quicker. So thank you for that. One last little bit of news from Kelvin. On days like today, when we have such a fantastic turnout, we have, 100, 150 people easily. At the end of our meeting, we mostly dive into the restaurant to enjoy a lovely lunch with our friends. And of course, it's a bit of a strain on the kitchen when everybody wants lunch all at the same time. So their head chef had a word with us and came up with a solution that they're going to offer on our general meeting days a limited menu, still has plenty of choice. The chef knows the popular dishes, he knows what we like, he knows what we usually order, but it will enable the kitchen to be more efficient and to work quickly and will help the waiting staff. So you'll see that today. There's still plenty of choice. It will change seasonally as well, winter and summer and so on, but it's there to try and make life a bit easier and quicker for you. So please bear with that, and I'm sure you'll still enjoy a fabulous lunch. Okay, good news. As you saw when you came in, the directory is out. That's quite a project to get done. You should have collected one today. Hopefully you have and signed for it. Big thank you to Julia and also to Marcella for helping with this project. Thank you very much. And for those who are not able to be here today, we're asking the area reps to take those copies that are required back with them if they're here today, and they can hand them out to their areas as appropriately. As you saw, the newsletter was out at the beginning of the month, and again, we've got a very busy calendar. When the newsletter is published, and we tell you that by WhatsApp, everybody is informed the moment it goes onto the website. From that moment, you can start booking activities. Usually you can book them now by email or WhatsApp, some contact with the group leader. But from that moment, you can book activities. We ask group leaders preferably not to book ahead of that. They must wait until the newsletter is out. I certainly don't book ahead, and we all obey that rule, and then that's fair. If some groups are heavily oversubscribed, we're going to be asking group leaders to make a waiting list and to draw names from a hat if required. Sometime later this month, Janet and I are hoping to meet with the group leaders, and we're going to run through some of these processes and things to make sure everything is running efficiently. So here we are in May. Autumn is upon us. It's a beautiful, crisp morning. May, I guess you cannot fail to notice that it's Mother's Day this weekend, and I'm sure some of you may be celebrating. Even if you're not a mother, you certainly had or have a mother, and it's quite possible you are a mother figure to somebody. You may be a mother to a relative, you may be a mother to a young person. You know, that role can take many forms. You can even be mother to your pets. But this Sunday, we take the opportunity to celebrate the role of mothers in our society. So I hope you enjoy that, whatever you do. If you've read the newsletter, and I hope you have, you will see our theme on the front page was philanthropy. As you know, in our constitution, it states that we are a club which supports philanthropy projects. It is part of our club ethos. And as you well know, we are an incredibly generous club, and Margie is going to talk more about that, but you've only got to look across the room to see the donations that have been made today, which our philanthropy ladies are busy sorting. And thank you very much for volunteering to do this while we're all talking. But what a wonderful example of philanthropy that we can see today. Philanthropy comes in many, many forms. Sometimes you donate resources, sometimes money, sometimes it's simply your voice that you can give. But sometimes it's possibly the most precious thing you can give, the most precious resource you have, and that is your time. You give your time to something. And we should do all this with no expectation of something in return or reward. And I do feel that we are very good at this. And if Margie does ask for help, sometimes it's your time, which is the most precious thing you can give. Just an hour of your time can make a huge difference to something succeeding. I also feel the act of giving can really enhance your own life. And by serving your community, you can connect socially and feel very involved. It's something where we benefit as well as the beneficiaries. So that's something we're going to be thinking about this morning. We have, in a moment, a wonderful speaker who's come along, who is also very involved in philanthropy, and he'll be telling us later about a project dear to his heart. But enough of me for now. I'm going to now ask Janet to step up and tell us what's been happening with the groups and some of the activities and area reps and so on. Thank you very much.
Hola, good morning, dear ladies. Nice to see you today. Thank you, Christine. First, let me tell you some news about the area reps and group leaders. We are really thankful for Sue Allenby's help, support as group leader from the One Dish Club. Now our member Marina Baptista will delight you with more incredible launches. Welcome, Marina, and thank you, dear Sue, for all your help. We will enjoy the next One Dish Club at Marcela Solis' house. We have more news. We have a new theater WhatsApp group led by Victoria Dickerson and Jane Doherty. Thank you for organizing the next theater outings. The first outing from this group will be Music of the Night with our amazing Amanda. Hola, Amanda. We had amazing activities during the last month. We enjoyed the German high cuisine. We attended a movie at the Labia Theater. We celebrate the Queen Elizabeth. And we went to the art world of Norfolk. We enjoyed the nature in the Newlands Forest and at Akara in Somerset West. We had another amazing sailing trip with our captain, Marianne Lovell. But for this month, we have also incredible activities, especially for you, like visiting the Sandlam Art Gallery to admire the work from Irma Stern at the Art and Design outing. The hiking and walking group is going to the Table Mountain. And it's wintertime soon, and we are learning the art of candle making with the group Do One Yourself. Yes, we are going to Madame Luna. Let's go for a coffee at Quentin's with the Coffee Around in Cape Town group. And Wendy will lead us also to the Tash Hotel. We can't wait to do this activity. Dear Dieback, I'm coming to the wine appreciation at Camberley Wines. And I won't miss the music appreciation outing at Elizabeth Henley's home. You know what? It's not just music. Afterwards, we have high tea. Don't miss this opportunity because she's going to Sweden and she will be back again only next year in February. We will have more delightful lunches at Simon's Restaurant for the Sunday Lunch Club and at the Black Sheep Restaurant for the Friday lunch. Please don't miss the international cuisine with a short trip to the Turkey at Kerime's house in Musenberg. And Margaret Abbott, with her garden group, will have a break in June and in July. We will miss you, Margaret. But first, we are visiting the Pink Geranium Nursery in May. Marianne Lovell, with her tourists around town, will have a break in May, but she will come back soon with another surprise. And happening today, yes, sí, we are having lunch with the Spanish Conversation Club at the Chef's Terrace. Join us for a great conversation. Las esperamos. And now our philanthropic chair, Margie Biggs, will present us more interesting news. Thank you, Margie.
Good morning, ladies, from me, and good morning from Mary, our philanthropy bear. For those of you who haven't met Mary, she is named for Mary Robinson, excuse me, who, as most of you know, was the president of Ireland and who does amazing humanitarian work around the world. This is the fourth time I'm introducing Mary, and I think it's enough now. So I'm going to ask Julia if she would put it to the board that she should have a name tag, because then it's enough. Philanthropy is not about money, it's about the feeling. It's about feeling the pain of others and caring enough about their needs to help. That's what's said by Timothy Pina. And I think that that's what we feel as members of the IWC. When I was studying psychology at UCT, I learned many things, most of which I don't remember. But there was one field trip that stuck in my mind, and that was the day we visited the Alexandra Institute, which is now today called the Alexandra Hospital. It's in Maitland. This is a hospital for patients severely affected by mental disabilities. These are patients who need a lot of care and who will never be able to care for themselves. It takes a special kind of people to care for these patients. And it's not easy because they will not get better and most of them will not go home. this is the hospital we're supporting this month. And I asked them what they needed, and they told us that they needed clothes. And they told me specifically what kind of clothes they needed. And you have been so generous with what you've brought for them. I mean, it's amazing if I look at our table, our philanthropy table today, and we sorted out what will go to them. And also there were some things that were not appropriate for them, simply because they had buttons on them or they had zips. So in fact, we've got 2 charities this month, and we'll also be going to the Booth Hospital. Now, we can't visit the Alexandra Hospital for obvious reasons, because we'll disturb the patients. So on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock, we're going to the Booth Hospital, and we'll be taking probably from where the chairs are, and perhaps 2 of those piles will be going to the Booth Hospital. So if anybody wants to join us, 11 o'clock at the Booth Hospital in Vredehuk, the philanthropy ladies and I will be there, and we'll be taking those clothes to them, because they also are desperately in need for their patients to have clothes to go home in. Now, recently I was asked, how does the board make decisions as to which community organizations to support? And I thought I should just tell everybody one time how we did. At the beginning of this year, I took a look at the different areas of community organizations in Cape Town. I looked at areas of the children, the aged, all races, animals. I looked at education, culture, homelessness, medical issues, the environment, and disability. Then I considered the different regions where our members reside, from the West Coast and Rondebosch to the Deep South, Atlantic Seaboard, Constantia, City Bowl, and the Winelands. Over all these considerations, I placed projects that I know and those suggested by members this year, and tried to find a fit. And I presented to the board a plan, and the board considered this plan and approved it. It's not cast in stone, but it is a guide, and it is balanced. And if you wish to discuss this with me, do drop me a line. Next month, we'll be supporting Cape Town Opera, and in July, TLC, which is up the West Coast. So those are the 2 for the next 2 months. I'd like to thank the following ladies who assisted in going out to hand out Easter treats to the aged at homes in Woodstock, Fishhook, the Townships, and Stellenbosch. Jane Fairley, Janet Schillert, Lindsay Kahn, Janice Pace, Caroline Castellane, Marcia Frost, who was only here for a short while, actually from Zambia, so it was really nice to have her along. Carol Armstrong-Zip. Thanks also due to Margaret Pils and the board, who attended a work party to tie up the parcels for the oldies, and especially to Mel Roberts, who gave so generously. She tied up, she sewed up at least 16 blankets for the oldies. Thank you all of you too for giving so generously for the project last month. We plan to support 2 seniors' homes, and in the end we were able to support 5. Thanks as always to our Red Hat ladies who do such a good job of selling raffle tickets each month. And I also specifically want to thank Tilo Naidu. You know, Tilo is someone who works in the background, and she really doesn't want to be recognized, but she does a great job working at the book stand. And as you all know, the profits of the book stand go to animal welfare at the end of the year. And they do a really good job. They earn a lot of money for animal welfare. So thank you, Tilo, for all the work that you do over all the years. Then thanks to Geraldine Berry, who handles the bottle tops and bread ties, which go to Operation Smile and the wheelchair project. Those ladies who bring them, I was astounded to see the huge pile of bottle tops and bread ties that were received this month. So thank you all for that. And to all of you who donate funds to the projects each month, I'm so extraordinarily grateful to you. They really are well received by all our charities. So thank you all very much.
I won't list you all, but I do want to say a big thank you to the ladies that helped me out there and the meter and greeters. I could not do this job without you. You're super. It's just that it's such a mad rush out there. Does that sound right there? Because it's very echoey here, isn't it? Sounds fine. And it's such a mad rush out there that I never get a chance to say thank you, but I really am very, very grateful to all of the people that helped me. I'm particularly thanking Marcella as well. I don't know where she is, but Marcella really helped me by taking me to a great printer who did a super job with your directories. So I'm very happy about getting those done at last as well. The number of members is staying very static. We just get a few more each time, but now I think we're coming to a season where the numbers are starting to slow down, which for me is a relief because we've always had like 7 or 8 out here. It's quite nice to meet 2 or 3 and get to know you better. And this month we only have 3 on the stage today, with a couple coming next month, hopefully. So our first member is Mel Pastorino. And Mel was born in South Africa and moved to Cape Town in 2006. She lives in Somerset West. She speaks English, Afrikaans, a little Italian, and Xhosa, a little Xhosa. Most of her career in management has been in the corporate world, but she gave it up on a diagnosis of breast cancer. Mel runs self-catering apartments in her home for Western European holidaymakers during our summer months. She enjoys walking, hiking, Pilates, aerial Pilates, which sounds a bit scary, gardening, and loves interacting with people. Mel has been very helpful even to me this morning, and she's very helpful. Very busy with lots of energy. So Christine is the area rep because she's come from Somerset West. So very welcome to Mel Pastorino. Oh, she forgot to tell. I forgot to say she also loves Zumba. So thank you, Yannick, for the Zumba. Our next member on the stage is Sonia. Do I say Gauss? Sorry. House. Afrikaans. So she's from, lives in Stellenbosch. Sonia speaks Afrikaans, English, and a little bit of French. And at the moment, she's an author of language textbooks, second language, specialising in Afrikaans and English as a foreign language. And I was trying to see, but my grandson's book is always at school, but it could be that you wrote one of his Afrikaans books. She enjoys English, art, festivals, films, reading and travelling. Sonia has a lovely garden and would like to open it as an open garden during that period. She's going, and knows Margaret Abbott. So she's got contacts with open gardens. So hopefully we'll get to see a beautiful garden. So again, Christine, one of Christine's because you're from Stellenbosch. I'd like to come up and get your... And last but not least, Lan's one of our area neighbours. Lan was born in Shenyang City in China. She studied nursing medicine and worked in a hospital for almost 20 years in China. In 2006, she and her German husband came to South Africa and settled in Wellington, where they owned a small olive farm. Now, I can't remember who it was, but I remember when you did The Right Girls, somebody owned an olive farm, didn't you? And I've also heard it's very hard work to get them as plump as we like to eat them. Lan enjoys working in the garden, reading and cooking. So she's just moved to the northern suburbs, so her area rep is therefore Claudia Roca, who's sitting near me. Very welcome, Lan. Thank you. So my lovely helpers out there, I hope you all signed for your directories this time. Next time we should be able to just tick you off easily. But we've got your directories. The people who were not able to collect them now, we have got those lists. We're going to collate them. And while you're listening, I will do it very quietly, Africa, because I still want to listen to what you're saying. A couple of helpers and myself, we're going to arrange your remainder ones, the ones that haven't been given out, in 2 bags for collection at the end of the morning. So either the area rep or they've appointed someone in their absence will come and collect those from me, please. Thank you very much.
Good morning to our new members, our guests and our regular members, and good morning to Africa. Africa agreed to be our speaker today. I did do a little dance of joy. You didn't want to see what that looked like. I'd like to introduce you and just tell you a little bit about Africa before he comes up and speaks to us. Africa is a broadcaster and host of the early breakfast show on both Cape Talk and 702. In his role, he has interviewed leading personalities, business leaders, politicians, thought leaders, community activists, and religious leaders from both South Africa and abroad. His real joy is derived from engaging with fellow South Africans on matters that are important to them. Africa Melane studied accounting and auditing and went on to work at a leading business assurance firm. He also taught a professional development course for first-year students at the Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Cape Town, before turning to a career in broadcasting. He has been the Master of Ceremonies for events and functions for both the public and private sector. He has hosted events for provincial government, local governments, Westgrow and other agencies of government. He is Vice Chairman of Cape Town's Opera's Board of Directors. He also serves on the board of Street Smart South Africa, and he chairs the panel of judges of the Fleur de Cap Theatre Awards, South Africa's oldest and most prestigious awards, which reward excellence in professionalism, professional theatres staged and performed in Cape Town. Africa Melane.
Wow, that made me sound so busy, doesn't it? My day generally starts at 2:30 in the morning when I get woken up rudely by my alarm, because I have to be at the office by 3 in order for me to be functional and sensible come 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was so lovely to meet some of the ladies who were saying to me, "Oh, I listen to you every morning at 4 o'clock. It really, really is special. And I do hope that we try and make sense of the world for you and reflect what is important. It is a great joy to be in broadcasting. I enjoyed accounting. I really did. Accounting was my best subject at high school, and it made sense for me to go study and read for a Bachelor of Commerce. I went to go work for PwC for a number of years. Then I got enough of that. I thought balance sheets and income statements, and then I went to go teach at UCT, a professional development course for first year medical students, speech therapy students, occupational therapy students at the Faculty of Health Sciences. And that was a hoot and a lot of fun. But broadcasting is really where I found my center. And it's been a joy to do it for the last 16 years. And what that has afforded me is the opportunity then to be involved in the organizations that were listed. And Cape Town Opera is certainly one of those. I grew up in the dusty streets of Gugulethu. My mom was a grade 1 teacher for 21 years before she sadly passed on to cancer. And we listened to R&B and jazz on Sundays. It's what I know. And speaking of jazz, by the way, I've met the chair of the jazz club, and I'm going to exchange some venues. So those who are excited about jazz, there'll be 3 or 4 more venues that you guys will be able to be excited about. And Christine, I was also stopped by the security guard. And I'm one of those people who I love taking public transport. So I got in a Golden Arrow bus from town, got off on Main Road, walked, and then the gentleman said, "Can I have a driver's license, please?" And I'm going, "But I'm walking." Why do I need a driver's license? But that was really funny. But I grew up listening to jazz. I grew up listening to R&B, and the notion, the idea of opera was really something I consumed primarily through popular culture. So there would be an aria, for example, that is in a movie. One of the scenes I remember very, very clearly is from Philadelphia. Tom Hanks, Oscar award-winning performance, explains a particular moment in an opera to Denzel Washington's character. And you just, for those 4 or 5 minutes, you're transfixed as you are hearing the wonder of the music and listening to the explanation offered by Tom Hanks. Obviously, when you're watching television and products like British Airways using the flower duet as a way of trying to allow you to dream of these incredible far distances that you can travel to. That's the aria, by the way, that inspired Priti Yende. She grew up in KZN and was watching TV one day. The British Airways ad came on and she heard that and she went, wow, that's wonderful. Can I try that? And of course, she's now regarded and reviewed as the best Violetta in La Traviata in Covent Garden. They had a multicast, I suppose is what they say. And hers was regarded as the best of the ladies. And she's doing phenomenal things for South Africa. But my interaction really with Sydney Cape Town Opera came in a very different way. My grandmother and my family were based in Gugulethu, and one of her best friends, they met in 1956, in the year that my mom was born, and they were literally best friends until they both passed away. She had a grandson, Uskhumbuzo, who was my age, and Uskhumbuzo was okay academically at school. He passed his matric, but didn't get a chance to go to university or college, but he had a magnificent voice. He had the most marvelous voice on any young man's body. And he auditioned for what was then the opera ensemble. And he got in. And Skhumbuzo managed to travel the world, performing obviously in Cape Town, but primarily in Europe, especially in Spain. And what he managed to do over the 7-8 years he was with Cape Town Opera was amass money, because they obviously get paid and there's a stipend, and he was saving all of that. And the reason he was saving that money is because his grandmother, when she was much younger, was married to a businessman in Gugulethu. This businessman owned businesses, including butcheries. And sadly, in the early 60s, he passed away to an illness. And back then, if you were a woman, you were not allowed to own any property or businesses. If you were a Black woman, even less so. So Umagaba, as we affectionately referred to her, went from being the wife of a business owner who had properties and businesses to having to ask her sister if she could build a shack at the back of her home. And that's where she lived for decades. And every time she would visit my grandmother, and they would visit and literally go for 2.5 hours, and then there'd be silence for the rest of the weekend, effectively, because they communicated silently. That's how long their friendship was. But the one thing that I remember hearing time and time again is how her greatest wish is that when her coffin comes out of her home to take her to a final resting place, that it does so from a brick house and not from a home made out of zinc. Don't get me wrong, Makaba managed to create a wonderful home in that shack at the back of her sister's. Every time I visited and I would spend a weekend there, I had the most marvelous time, because women of that generation were able to allow us children to forget for a second the reality that we were finding ourselves in. Not only the political dynamic, but the poverty that it came with. My grandmother, for example, would, towards a certain time of the month when there was not as much money coming in, buy an onion, chop it, fry it, so that when you walk into the house, you go, wow, 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 we're gonna have lovely dinner. In the meantime, all you're having is peanut butter and jam with some tea. But they created, and I share that story to I suppose reflect how they created a world which was fascinating and amazing for us as children. And what Uskhumbuzo was able to do with the money that he saved from all the tours he did with Cape Town Opera as part of the chorus was buy his grandmother a house. And I remember the joy in her face. And I remember saying to Uskhumbuzo, this is the proudest thing. Well, I mean, I was always proud of his achievement, but that's the one thing that I was proud of the most. This is a man who had sung at some of the most gilded halls around the world and really reflected Cape Town and South Africa in its best. But the one thing he wanted always was to create that moment for his grandmother. And it was indeed a couple of years later that when we went to go bury her, her coffin came out of a brick house as opposed to shantytown. And that was possible because of Cape Town Opera. It was possible because Khumbuzo, whose talent was voice, was able to audition and be given the opportunity. And for a period of 7 to 8 years, his profession was singing. He would wake up in the morning, get into a taxi, go to the Artscape and sing. And he'll tour the world singing, earn a salary and earn an income. And I'm very well aware of the privilege that that comes with, right? Cape Town Opera continues to be the only opera company of its size, certainly in South Africa, and one would argue on the African continent, where we are able to mount full main stage productions to the number that we are and have some of those productions touring. And in that process, we're giving 45 company members an opportunity to earn an income from doing what they love every day, which is to sing. Many of our singers are forced to have another job as teachers, as bank tellers, as whatever the job may be. And then in the evenings and over the weekends, they will then go and gather with people who love music and they get to sing. We at Cape Town Opera, we work very hard, don't get me wrong, but we are able to afford them the opportunity to live the profession of a singer. That was my first interaction with opera and Cape Town Opera particularly. My second story I'm going to share has little to do with Cape Town Opera, but I suppose speaks more to philanthropy and how you can find philanthropy in a myriad of ways. Back in the day when I was an auditor for PwC, one of my clients was Simon Estes High School, which used to be on Lansdowne Road. It was a school named after a singer who was an American and gave opportunities to young kids from disadvantaged backgrounds whose talent was music, be it singing or instrument, and would then give them the curriculum that every other South African was going through. But in addition to that, there'll be a focus on music. And once a year for 3 years, for about 2 weeks, my joy and my pleasure was being at the school, because if you're in a music school, kids sing during interval, right? So every time they were on a lunch break, I would make sure that I'm outside. And I remember hearing these 3 young lads who were mimicking the 3 tenors, Pavarotti and all those people. I can't even remember the aria they were performing. I don't even know if they were singing the right notes, but it just sounded amazing. And there was this one particular gentleman who, sadly, I forget his name now, who sounded so much better than everybody else. I went up to him after they performed the song and I said, you should audition for the South African College of Music. He lived in Khayelitsha with his grandmother. His parents, or his mother, had passed. He didn't know his father. His grandmother relied on the state pension at the time, and they lived, once again, in a shack. And he said, I'd love to, but I don't have resources to do so. As an article clerk, you were earning a pittance back in the day. And I remember taking out my last 100 Rand out of my wallet and giving it to him. An application would cost him 60 Rand at UCT, and I wanted him to submit an application. And then the 40 Rand he'll be able to use for transport money to go to UCT and to get an audition. 100 Rand. My last 100 Rand, walk away, completely forget about it. Fast forward 10 years later, the Fugard Theatre opens on District 6. Lovely, incredible event. And outside is a young man who's part of Isango Portobello, which was formed by Mark Dainford May, I think, and Pauline Malefane. And they were the resident company for the Fugard when they opened. And I'd seen him on stage a couple of times. They'd done the Magic Flute in Isxhosa, for example. Ukame Khayelitsha, of course, is one of the greatest achievements and all of that. And I'd seen this man on productions. He comes to me on that day and he says, hi, how are you? I'm good, thanks. You don't remember me, do you? I said, no, I saw you in this production. He says, no, I was that kid in Matric in 1999 who you gave 100 Rand to. I went to go and apply and use the 40 Rand to go to UCT to audition. And I got an opportunity to be enrolled at UCT. And now because of that, I'm able to travel the world with Isango Potabela. And I just wanted to say thank you very much. It's a lovely story. It really, really is. Because it was 100 Rand, my last one, and I'd completely forgotten about that moment. And I walked away. But in that minute, in that moment, I was able to impact so magnificently in another human being's life. So do not underestimate the impact you have as philanthropists. Whatever it is that you're able to share, whatever it is that you're able to give, it's going to mean the world to somebody who's receiving that gift. And then the third story that I want to share, which I suppose brings me back to Cape Town Opera a bit, is that of Cecilia. Cecilia, a young lady who grew up in Limpopo, phenomenal talent for singing, would represent her province in the national school singing competition and would win it years in succession. Cape Town Opera does a thing as part of the youth and development program, where they go to other provinces and they teach young scholars the Stateford choral competition music, basically. And they always take the young artist program participants with them, and they teach them music, and they get to perform and sing. And of course, the learners get to interact with the singers around their profession. And Cecilia was one of those kids in Limpopo and spoke to one of the opera singers and said, oh, so like you can make money from this? And she said, yes, because obviously coming from a disadvantaged background, the thought is, how do I put bread on the table for my family? She has a passion and clearly a talent for singing, and she wanted to pursue it. But in Limpopo, she didn't know that she could sing opera for a living. Went on to come and study at UCT, did a stint at Tshwane University of Technology, a BTech there, had access to amazing teachers, came to join Cape Town Opera as part of the Young Artists Program, and within months was snapped up by the Royal Opera House. She went to be part of the Young Artists Program there. And Amanda, you have to help me here. It was the BBC Cardiff competition, the singing competition that she won. She won the BBC Cardiff competition. This is a young lady, excuse me? The singer of the world. This is a young lady who grew up in Limpopo, possibly being taught in a school that did not have the resources that we know of and appreciate in Cape Town, had the magic of a voice, thankfully gained access to opportunities within South Africa, and with that, went to go and be part of arguably one of the greatest companies in the world, and won a competition where she is the singer of the world. Amazing. That's why I'm proud to be associated with this company. That's why I'm proud that as a member of the board of directors, I work my behind off every day to make sure that we gain access to resources and money, which primarily comes through foundations and trusts and grants. We have a very healthy patronage at Cape Town Opera. Thankfully, local government and provincial government are really coming to the party as far as support is concerned. Sadly, national government is nowhere to be seen. And it is so disheartening, because if you look at opera houses in Europe, for example, up to 80% of the revenue would come from states' resources. And all that the company managers will have to worry about is that 20% of the revenue, which will be a combination of box office and patronage, right? There is no way that Cape Town Opera will be able to put on a production of Rigoletto, for example, and be able to charge the kind of price per ticket we would need to charge to recoup that cost. It is impossible, right? We would be shut down in a day because everyone would say, what are you talking about? And it costs money to put on an opera. It costs an extraordinary amount of money to put on an opera. But we're able to mount operas because of the hard work we do as a board and as a company, and most importantly, because of those incredible voices that have not only delighted us in South Africa, but delighted us all over the world. Just about every major gilded opera hall in the world has either a South African singer as part of its principal singers or a South African singer as part of the chorus. There are very, very few opera houses in the world that will not have a South African singer as part of it, because we are that good. And when I say we, by the way, I don't mean Cape Town Opera. I mean the UCT Opera School, Tswana University of Technology, the choir teachers at high school, because that's where they come from, right? There's a healthy choral music society in South Africa that would sample Mozart, Bach, and all those wonderful pieces of music that exposes the singers to. And it is those teachers that are doing incredible work in helping us and the universities unearth and see those incredible talents. And I keep on saying to the opera board, we just need to give up on the national government and just keep on doing what you're doing, because we are doing it well. And we are able to mount productions and put them on stage. I don't think I have to convince many of you why a city like Cape Town, a country like South Africa, needs to have an opera company. The first original opera, I think, dates back to the 17th century, depending on which history books that you are reading. My understanding is that there are more than 400,000 operas that have been written, and they are writing new operas all the time. There's obviously a mainstay core of operas that is performed everywhere around the world, but 400,000. I want to hear music to Sarah Batman's story, for example, because that's a powerful South African story. I went to sort of early performance of a new musical that was being written. It's about a South African woman who was born in 1910 when the Union of South Africa was formed, passed away in 1994 when the democracy was attained in South Africa. And her greatest fame is that she claimed to have been abducted by aliens in the late 50s, early 60s. She was on the front cover of Huisgenoot, and she was popular. And she claims she went out to outer space, fell in love with an alien, they procreated a child, and because of her inability to breathe, she came back to South Africa and then was telling people about the story. That's a wonderful opera. That is a wonderful opera ready to be written and ready to be sung. Because as somebody once said, singing is what comes naturally after speaking is no longer adequate. Right? We've got some wonderful writers, Shakespeare, Yeats, Chinua Achebe, Alan Paton. I mean, the opening paragraph to Cry the Beloved Country still haunts me to this day because it's so wonderfully written. But the story of a woman who went to outer space to give birth, I don't care how talented you are, you can't write that story well. So you have to attach music to it. And the music is just gonna make it so dramatic. I mean, how many other platforms do you know of where it takes 20 minutes for somebody to die? Right? And die in the most glorious of ways, too. I like that line. Singing is what comes naturally after speaking is no longer adequate. Because at core is this incredible human voice that is not amplified. Not amplified. I remember interviewing Dame Tikanawa at the Fugard when she came to visit and she was doing some master classes. And we were talking about Everything's Got Talent and The Voice and all these sort of popular competitions. And of course, people use a microphone to sing and they have a wonderful operatic sound. And we asked, what do you think about that? And she said she's grateful that people have an opportunity to really gain world fame because of that. But nothing beats good teaching, hard work, and practicing your craft every day. If you are going to be, and Amanda, you know this, you've sung at the Metropolitan in New York. It's a vast venue. And you're going to have to stand in the center of that stage and project your sound all the way there. You have to have it. And you sing with your entire body, like every aspect, every muscle, your diaphragm, everything just works when you're singing opera. And to do it with this is just not good enough. We're telling old stories through opera. We're often telling old stories with a new lens. Matthew Wild, who was the previous artistic director for Cape Town Opera, did Porgy and Bess, but the context was the issue of immigration. Because in Europe, as it is in South Africa, immigration is a big issue. So can you imagine this opera that was written decades ago, if not longer, given a very contemporary twist where you examine and you test the values and the themes that are common in that opera, but to a very different context and a very different setting altogether. Opera moves us. It makes us think. It makes us cry. And most importantly, it gives us hope. Music has this ability of penetrating your soul, and it needs no translation whatsoever. And I would argue that if you take, I don't know, Puccini's La Bohème, for example, and you have some way of measuring how that music, the aria where Mimi introduces herself, the tenor has just, even though they live through poverty and they're gypsy artists, you know, the tenor being the tenor was like, oh, I'm so great, la, 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 and then turns to Mimi and says, who are you? And Mimi, in just the most wonderfully contained way, shyly introduces herself as Mimi. The contrast between those two arias for me is one of the most magical moments in opera, right? I imagine the first person who heard that for the very first time when Puccini wrote it, if you have a measurement of reward and satisfaction, and you measure it with somebody who heard it this year, you probably are going to get the same result. Because music just penetrates the soul. Magdalene Minnaar, who's the new artistic director, gave a very contemporary context to it, where it was in a South African shack in a township that is unnamed, and at some point, Eskom suffers load shedding in the middle of the opera, and it makes it contemporary, relevant now, even though the piece of music was written so long ago. Let's keep on loving opera. Let's keep on fighting for opera to exist in this country, in this city. Not only Cape Town Opera, but the very many other opera companies that do wonderful work. What she does is exceptional, and you should be proud of her, and I know she's associated with the organization. Christine, thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you for giving me. Thank you. Thank you for giving me your ears, and a very happy Mother's Day for Sunday. Yes, I'm open for some questions, yeah. As long as they're not technical questions about opera, because I don't sing. I talk on the radio. Does anyone have any questions? There's a question there. Jane there.
Africa, do you ever foresee that we will have in our schools an appreciation for the arts like that?
I hope so. If I had anything to do with education, I would really encourage schools to specialize. I matriculated at Sipon High in the 90s, and a very good sort of closely associated school was what was, I think, still called Gardens Commercial High School. And the majority of the subjects offered at Gardens Commercial were commercial subjects: accounting, business economics, and those kind of subjects. And they were preparing learners for an entry into commerce and business science and mercantile law and those kind of subjects, right? I think we should have a similar school for arts. And it shouldn't be one school, it should be a few schools. So Gugulethu, for example, has 3 high schools. And yes, all those 3 high schools need to deliver language, mathematics, and all of those kind of things. But what happens if one of those 3 had a specialization in arts? And so if anyone and everyone who wanted to do something to do with arts went to that one particular school, they still got all the other subjects, but there was a very heavy focus on arts. Another one will have a focus on engineering and mathematics, and another one will have a focus on social sciences. Do you know what I mean? Because we have a finite amount of money as far as money we can spend on education. It is still, by the way, the largest share of the budget. South Africa pours more money per GDP in education than any other African country, and yet the quality of the education we produce in this country is something else. So keep the money that's there, but just use it better. And I think have very healthy, very engaging, very exciting arts programs as part of particularly the high school, well, started primary school, but particularly the high school education. Thank you for that question.
Hello, you were just saying how important it is for an opera singer to be able to project the voice in enormous places, right? Now, there is something that is not a banality, but we knew in the past, opera singers used to be very large, very fat people, and now they actually found that we got very good, that doesn't happen anymore. Was the idea that they were fat because it was believed that they could project, that they had more energy? What is that? Why was like that, and why it has changed?
I'll tell you what I have a challenge with. I have a challenge with directors casting singers who look a particular way, thinner, size 8, tall, locks, whatever the case may be, because they want the opera to be sold, right? For me, the voice is what's important. If I could have any influence, I would have singers who are auditioning for a role audition behind a curtain, so that you don't see what they look like, and what you're listening out for is the voice. And if the voice suits that role, you then cast that person. Because a good singer, and we have a lot of good singers, will allow you as an audience member to suspend disbelief and trust that they are a 21-year-old when in fact they are 36 and whatever the case may be, right? Because once they start singing, the quality of their voice should take me to where I need to go. So my issue is how unbelievably obsessed, thankfully less so in South Africa, but definitely in Europe and parts of America, there's an obsession with the look of the singer. Nonsense. It should be the voice of the singer that is front and foremost. I want healthy singers on stage. So what we do at Cape Town Opera, for example, once a week, we have a movement class for our chorus members because they need to be physical, they need to be active, they need to be healthy. We know that there have been singers in the past who have been quite heavyweight to the detriment of their health. And I think we need to be mindful of that. We need to take care of the wellness of our singers, but it should be because we want them to be healthy and for them to sing for as long as they want to, more so than because we're wanting a size 8 singing the role of Norina, I think. There are 2 in that corner. You are asking difficult questions.
Hello.
Hello.
I just wanted to say when I was a lot younger, I had the pleasure of going to listen to Maria Callas. And she was not big, she was not voluptuous, she was quite petite, but her voice was so magnificent. I remember it to this day. So she didn't need to be big, large, voluptuous. She just needed to be given that magnificent voice.
That is it. That is it. Thank you for that.
Hello, Africa. We've heard you help people to sing, to create a life for themselves. You yourself have created a wonderful life for yourself by being an accountant and now in broadcasting. Have you ever thought, has the spark ever hit you that you could actually go into politics?
Hell no.
And help people in politics?
No. I am much better equipped talking about politics, and I do far too much than I would be as a, well, Sheila's here. I mean, she knows the life and the hardness of being a politician. I just don't, all respect to politicians. I really, I appreciate and value, well, sometimes the things that they do. But it's hard. You go into battle every day. I mean, I don't think it's a secret, but the chief whip of the DA, for example, is under pressure from her own caucus at the moment. And yet a year ago, she was a darling. To shift in 12 months. And if John Steenhuisen is to dismiss her as the chief whip, where does she go? What does she do? Do you know what I mean? Because you go, well, John went from being chief whip to leader of the party. Do you go back to being a backbencher and then somebody else becomes a chief? It just, I don't have the stomach for it. And my grandmother used to say to me, every day when you go to sleep, when your radio switched off, your television screen is off, your cell phone is away, and you're left in those last few moments of your thoughts before you go to sleep, I need to be comfortable and at ease with myself. And I don't think any politician can claim that any day.
Africa,
Hello.
the Johannesburg School of Arts used to exist and closed down many years ago. I don't know if they actually included opera, but do you know why? Was that government funding that dried up? Do you know if it included?
I would not know, simply because I've been in Cape Town all my life. And so ask me about opera here, ballet here, theater here, I'll be able to give you some insights. But unfortunately, I don't know enough about what is happening in Joburg. However, I will say this, it saddens me greatly that the #1 city in South Africa, Joburg, is at least 3 times the size of Cape Town in terms of population. It's certainly much richer than Cape Town in terms of wealth that is accumulated there, that Joburg doesn't have an opera company the size of Cape Town Opera. You'll have Josie Opera, for example, before that Gauteng Opera, before that the Black Ties. There are singers who are talented and who are hustling and who are trying to do what they can to live their craft every day. But in my world, if I were the Minister of Arts and Culture, that's what I'll do. I would be a better Minister of Arts and Culture than Natim Tetra is right now. But if I were the Minister of Arts and Culture, I would recommend and advocate for a similar sized company in Johannesburg. So Cape Town Opera and Joburg Opera, let's call them, would be the main producing opera house companies in the country. And conditional to that would be touring those operas to Durban, to PE, to Gqeberha, to Bloemfontein, and so forth and so forth. Additional condition to that would be to then work with all the other opera companies to empower them to transfer skills, to have them producing services, including vocal services, to those opera companies, so that when there are touring opportunities to go overseas, everybody gets equal chance to go overseas. That for me would be a healthy state of affairs. And to give you figures, we operate on about 20 to 25 million right now. I think optimally we should be on 30 million budget to be able to get and do what we want. Imagine another 30 million sized performing arts company in Johannesburg, and those two provide the opera needs of South Africa primarily, and then obviously take up opportunities to tour. We need to tour. We have no choice but to tour internationally because we're competing internationally. And Europe is the center of opera in the main. America is doing some wonderful things, but Europe is really where you go to, I don't know, Austria, for example, and in Vienna alone, you've got so many opera companies that are attracting some of the best voices in the world. And we need to be operating in that space so that we can learn from the best as well. But Joburg needs an opera company that is sustainable and that will, UCT takes how many students a year? and the one-on-one teaching that happens at UCT is the reason why the fees for opera singers are so expensive, right? Because you're literally spending, you know, Professor Virginia Davids, when she was still a full-time member of the staff, would spend that hour with you. That's expensive tuition, without a doubt. And Cape Town Opera cannot provide the opportunities for all the graduates from UCT, from TUT, from Fort Hare, and all these universities. We need another company to absorb the pressure, I think.
I think we need to keep applying national government for some sponsorship and to come to the party, because you know, they give way too much on certain sectors of the
I have no clue why national government has no interest in opera. At some point there was an interest in orchestral music because his name is Bongani, who headed up the KZN Philharmonic, had very close linkages to the office of the minister and was able to negotiate a wonderful deal actually for the orchestra companies, where there was a special fund out of the minister's budget that went to the orchestras. And then at some point, ballet got some love because Tito Mboweni is fascinated by ballet, and I think was a patron of Zanzi Ballet up in Joburg at some point. So there was some money being made available to ballet, but for whatever reason, opera missed the boat. And 1994, three things should have happened. All the resources should have gone to education. If the ANC government then focused on education and improving the quality of education for everybody, we would not be sitting with half the socioeconomic challenges that we are facing right now. So all that money should have gone into education. That's one. Two, personally, I would have said to the struggle heroes, thank you very much for your hard work. Here's money, print it from the Reserve Bank. Thank you, go ahead, and let's populate those offices and ministries with people who know what they're doing. And then three, learn from the nationalist government. The reason they invested in KPAB and PACT and all those arts councils is because they wanted to be perceived as a civilized nation, right? And they poured money into these companies that were housed at the Artscape, at the Playhouse in Durban, at State Opera, that supported drama, orchestra, ballet, opera, and producing incredible, wonderful quality work. If I were the ANC, excuse me, I would have realized the opportunity that resides in providing employment in the arts sector and the wonderful way we can showcase South Africa. Cape Town Opera Chorus will always be a better ambassador for South Africa than any politician in Europe. Fact, right? And let's use that. And I think the ANC government missed a boat there, or missed a chance rather.
Well, Africa, thank you. You're doing a magnificent job of broadcasting all this on the radio and, you know, encouraging the world of art and opera. So keep on doing what you're doing, but I think it's time they changed your time slot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Someone coming.
Africa, you have a very easy name to remember.
Yes.
Most of the young singers who go overseas have names which are so long that it would take up the entire front of the signboards. Pretty Yendi has the most wonderful name. And once I asked Kamal Khan, why didn't the young singers get encouraged in order to go overseas to have stage names? I realize that one is proud of the cultural name, but it is so difficult for people to remember who they've heard singing because the names are difficult to pronounce, particularly if they want to make a career in Europe.
Can I make a counter argument to that?
I'm not even arguing, I'm making.
No, but I'll offer an alternative. The Ukrainian soprano Anna Netrebko was singing in Turandot at the Metropolitan Opera. She was replacing a Russian singer, and of course a decision was made because of what's happening in Europe right now. And she came for her curtain call rather with a Ukrainian flag, and of course that was amazing. Netrebko is not an easy name. For somebody who doesn't speak Ukrainian, that name doesn't make sense to me. Nkululeko Masuku is one of the singers that went overseas. Thando Zwane is another name. Maria Callas. Do you know what I mean? And unless you've heard the name being pronounced before, as a whatever language she is, speaker of that language, I would not know how to pronounce that name. It's the voice that should be memorable. It's what will keep me coming back to any performance. Yes, Pretty Yende is easy to remember as a name, but I bet you Pretty Yende is remembered for her incredible vocal prowess, not because of the name that she has. So if and Africa Melane is an easy name, granted, but if I had Tandukolo Melane as a name, I would want to use that name. That's the name that people must know me by. And yeah, I mean, that's my retort to that, I suppose. But I hear you though. I do hear you.
Hi, just going back to your point on, in fact, first of all, I would like to invoke Martina Navratilova and Novak Djokovic, not exactly the roll off the tongue, but there we go. But we love them for their talent, not their name. Going back to your point on Joburg being such a rich city, do you get support from corporates for opera, or is it just not as enough? Or is there a reluctance to support the arts from corporates?
No, at the moment it's difficult to get money out of corporates because they're recovering from the pandemic, and therefore they refocus, I suppose, and redirect their budgets. It's hard to compete with children and with education. Those are the two prize sort of CSI focuses of companies. We've had great support in the past from banks like RMB and Investec. I mean, Investec continues to invest in the art fair, for example, because there's a general link between the people who consume art and the Investec potential clientele, right? And as long as you can make a case to that corporate function as to why opera is an option, then funding for it is slightly easier. I do find that they also tend to throw their money and weight behind a name. There was a time when William Kentridge came to direct The Magic Flute. Beautiful, 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 very European style of directing. Ironically, Sango Portabella was doing the same production at the Baxter in isiXhosa to an orchestra of marimba. And it was so lovely, and just the joy of being in Cape Town, to be at the Artscape the one evening, listening and delighting in William Kentridge's vision. I mean, and William thinks in images, right? And the trappings of the opera stage at Cape Town Opera allows for ladies to be standing like this in these magnificent gowns, singing while they're being pulled away. And like the visual is just amazing. And then to go to the high energy, high octane parts of it sung in isiXhosa with a marimba orchestra, like it was just, and Cape Town can offer that. Cape Town can offer that distinction. But I think if you go to, even to a Nando's, and you say you've got money that you're spending in, well, it's more visual arts that they do, but we could, I think, make a very strong case as to why they need to redirect it to performing arts. Corporates want to spend, it just happens to be a very difficult time right now, but when they're ready to spend again, they'll return their money to performing arts, I think.
Africa, thank you very much for your time. It's lovely having you here today on behalf of the RWC. Just a huge thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you for having me.
Before you go, we've got one more job for you to do.
Oh, yeah.
We've got our raffle prizes to draw, and I believe this morning we've got 3 prizes. We are very, very fortunate this morning. Okay, so first of all, okay, can I take the cash prize first?
I'm gonna use
this one first. This is the prize. Okay.
So third prize is a wonderful recipe book, A Sprig of Rosemary, Rosemary Saunders book, which has been given to us as a prize. So the first one, this is 159, green, I think, with a green surround, 159. Yay, okay, Annie, thank you very much. Okay, now I'm going to ask somebody to come forward and actually hand this over. I'm going to ask a special member who's with us today. Amanda, would you come up, please, and actually hand this over, because this is going to be 2 tickets to the wonderful Music of the Night concert at Blauwklippen, which has kindly, this prize has kindly, very kindly been donated by our lovely Margie. And at that concert, you will hear our wonderful soprano, Amanda, actually singing. So this is for Saturday, May 7th. And it's 2 tickets for the concert at Blauwklippen. So some lucky person is going to enjoy. It's white 275. So Amanda, would you hand that over to the white 275? Is there somebody? Yes, here you go. Lovely. So you're very lucky. You're going to hear our very own soprano singing to you on Saturday. She's amazing. Yes. Isn't that lovely? And thank you to Margie for donating those tickets. Thank you very much. And one more prize. This is our cash prize. One lucky lady can enjoy a very good lunch today. This is the cash prize which we separate from the raffle ticket fund. So what's that one? That's another green one, 149. Green 149. 149, somebody, oh, Xenia, okay, lovely. There we go. Well done. Enjoy, enjoy. Okay. Well, that concludes our meeting. Thank you very much, ladies. Enjoy lunch.